dramatic difference refinishing can make when we strip layers of paint off a hardwood floor and expose the natural wood underneath. Ooh. Nice shirt.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Joe Lorario.
And he's Ed Feldman. Hardwood floors are the subject of our show today.
You know, at one time they were very inexpensive, abundant. Everybody had one, just like horses.
Right, and then we raped the hardwood forests of our continent.
And then came a time when everybody said, you know, this hardwood floor is boring.
Maybe
we could paint it the same color as the walls. Look like we're in a cell.
And then another color, and then another color, or the scourge of wall-to-wall carpet, and God forbid, you should see the wood that goes next to the wall.
Or they would have the area, you know, the surround carpet in the center, and then you pull that up and you see the floor underneath, and around it's all painted and ugly puce.
Strange values. Times have changed once again, and people are peeling up the old ugly carpet.
They want to get back to the wood. They want to strip it. They want to sand it off. They want to finish it natural or stain it.
And at this house, which happens to belong to me, yes, I'm getting something for free today, we're going to be looking at my lower level, which is also my dining room, and it's got a floor.
It's got a floor, and we're going to go in, check out how many coats of paint are on it, and try and remove it, and get it off and make it look new.
French doors, remember Loretta Young?
This is one scabaceous floor.
And there's a lot of movement in this. You know, we talk about hardwood floors, but not all hardwood floors are hardwood.
You also got pine, hemlock, fir. They're all used.
Socrates had the hemlock.
He drank that.
And there are three basic types.
Strip flooring is the most basic. It's made up of narrow boards and is laid in random lengths. Plank flooring is a holdover from colonial days. It comes in random widths and lengths. Block flooring is sometimes called parquet, wood mosaic, or wood tile. It's comprised of rectangles, squares, or panels that make you nauseous when you look down on them.
Pay attention, class.
What is refinishing anyway? You used to know.
Yes, I do.
You still remember?
Of course I do. Refinishing is taking all the paint or the clear finish off a particular piece of furniture or said floor.
Whether by chemical or mechanical means.
Of course, you would never take a floor sander over a table.
I did, and now I have a paperweight instead.
4 nubs of legs.
And then what do you do after you strip
After you do, you put a new varnish, lacquer, whatever on top of it.
Right. Now, we're going to test our floor because we don't know what's underneath it. And we might like that color.
You might like that color because over a period of years, the wood attains a nice aged color.
And then you just strip it chemically because floor sanding is going to make it look much nicer and
it'll make
newer.
it look it'll make all the wood boards look brand new.
Right. So why don't you get that chemical stripper?
I'm going to do a test on the floor.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, cheesesteak, fried onions?
It's down that way. So look what you have here. You got an off-white on the top surface. That was the last paint that was applied. You got a dark brown under here. You got some kind of rose color here, ugly rose color. And then you got a dark green color. And under that, right here in this patch, you can see some light green underneath that. So that's 1, 2, 3, that's 4 or 5 colors already. And so we're going to use this remover just to see what we have underneath. And we'll put this remover on. It's a paste remover. And we'll just let it sit in the corner. Just all you have to do is about a square foot around. That's about it. It's all bubbling up.
Me too.
And now we're going to make a test. We have a scraper here, and we'll just scrape and see what we have underneath.
What do we got? See, we let this stripper sit for about half an hour.
See what happens where
one coat of paint, let it sit for less time, but there's lots of paints here.
See, the remover's taken off, and I'd have to reapply, but it's revealing enough so we know what's under here. And
which is more ugliness.
What's under here is some pine. Let's put a little bit of...
Yeah, so this is not a hardwood floor. It is a hardwood softwood floor. Pine.
Under a little bit of lacquer thinner on there. But you can see from the grain here, it's pine.
Right. This was a carriage house. This was not the main house with the rich people. This is where the servants live with the horses. So for floors like this, they would use a cheaper wood like pine and not a nice oak or other hardwood like in the mansion.
So you can see the advantage. If you strip this all down, of course, you'd have to reapply, as I said, another coat of the remover, and then you would get all the paint off, but you would have a nice dark aged pine that would be dark in parts and light in the grain parts.
Yeah, but I got a lot of that 50s blonde furniture in here, so I want it to be a nice light pine color. So what do you want to strip?
I think we should sand it.
And Tom!
Meet our special guest today, Dan Liez.
Hi, Dan.
Of Keystone Flooring.
Hey,
what's up?
What's this?
Sandpaper.
A 12 grit. Look at that. Looks like King Kong's toilet paper.
You know, the cozy looks like Fay Ray. It's over the top.
No wonder he beat his chest.
Hey, is this a job for an average homeowner, Dan?
It can be, but you're probably better off calling in a professional.
Sure.
Why is that?
Well, it can be very dusty, it can be a dangerous job, it's very time-consuming, plus you need a lot of technical equipment.
So how much would this cost?
Well, typically speaking, this is maybe a $600 to $800 job.
And what's the process?
Well, we start sanding the floors with 3 grits normally, but since you're painted, we'll use a 4th grit, which is an extra coarse
That's this,
sandpaper.
the 12
That's
grit.
what this is. Once all the sandings are completed, we do our cleanup. You must be completely dust-free before we can coat the floors.
I know I am.
And then we'll coat the floors with polyurethane.
Okay, that's just a water-based, solid base?
Well, we're using a water base because it's non-toxic, it dries faster, it's easier to work with.
So are we.
Dan, what's the prep like on a job like this?
Well, the first thing we do is we hang plastic to seal the house from the dust that could float throughout.
So it's hung and taped and...
That's right.
Sealed.
Next step, we'll put an exhaust fan or 2 in the window here to control the airflow and try to blow as much dust out as possible.
That's
Gonna
good.
kill my roses right outside the window?
We hope not.
Oh, gee.
Nah, you won't kill the roses.
And then, of course, you need to empty the room of furniture. And
Which we did.
If you'd like to remove the baseboards or quarter-round molding, you want to do that ahead
Which
of
we
time.
didn't because there was none.
Right. And so then you're ready to...
And then we're ready to start sanding.
There's a nail with its head sticking up.
And you don't want that.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, it could tear up the drum on the machine.
Yes.
Second of all, you don't want a floor with nails in it.
But then again, a sandpaper with this kind of, grit to it can easily shave that head right off.
It might, but if you can see the nails before you start, you might as well either pull them or punch them.
Okay. I like to punch it myself.
Okay.
Go ahead, you do it. Punch it just like that, using a nail set. And see that hole now? After that, you'll get it sanded, and then afterwards, when the floor is all done, being sanded, and before it's coated, Dan will come back and he'll use a putty, and he'll putty any kind of nail holes
That's right.
or cracks. Now, here's a situation where you have a nail with a head on it that's sticking up. And that you don't want to countersink because it's got a head on it. It's not the kind of nail that should be in there. So you want to remove those types of nails. Remove it.
Yeah, I love telling him to remove everything. I ain't gonna do nothing.
It's out.
Great. So are we.
What have you been eating?
That's such a dirty chicken. When we come back, we're going to be doing sanding. And I'm glad I wore my knockaround.
Welcome back. We're finishing the painted yellow pine floor in his dining room.
And we've already prepped the room, as you saw, and now we're ready to sand. So Dan, what's this?
Well, this is an 8-inch drum sander.
I have one.
Under here, you'll find the drum.
Mandingo lit the fuse. Drum is the explosion.
It's raised and lowered by the clutch or lever. And here we find the dust bag, which will collect much of the dust.
So you got a drum, a lever, and a dust bag.
That's the Andrews sisters' original names. What are you going to be using on the drum?
Well, we'll mount the 12 grit sandpaper around the drum.
Okay.
The drum spins at about 2,800 RPM.
It's a good Saturday night.
That's not the band either. That's
Right.
RVM. This is
The machine weighs almost 300 pounds.
Shut up.
So there's a lot of weight and torque behind the drum.
And is it steam powered or gerbils or what?
No,
Gas,
it's
but-
electric powered, 230 volt. This is a larger and heavier model than most, so we run a cable right to your trunk line at your fuse box.
So let's say a homeowner was going to go rent one of these. Is there a particular model that he should rent or should
Well,
rent?
you might be able to find a model like this for rent, but they're not real common for the homeowner. Most homeowners will find a 110 volt unit for
Okay,
rent.
so what's first?
First is the extra course, which is the 12 grit.
Well, let's see that go on.
Okay.
There's a phone somewhere.
We've loaded the sander up. Remember, when you load the sander, make sure the plug's not in the wall.
That's right, or any other outlet. Now, how are we going to start? Against that far wall, right?
That's right. We're going to start against the far wall. We're going to sand up and back in the same direction as the grain
with
of
the
the
grain.
wood. That's
Always
right.
with the grain, not like a Zamboni.
That's right. We're going to raise and lower the drum as we get to the far end and the back end, feathering very...
So this lifts the drum up off the floor
Correct.
so it doesn't scar the floor.
That's right. We're going to feather nice and smoothly so we don't leave any marks or sanding lines.
And because this machine is heavy, you want to make sure that the machine doesn't get away from you because it'll go right through the wall.
That's right. Very powerful.
And also, if you leave the drum down on the floor, it's going to make a divot, right?
Correct.
So, got to be careful about a lot of things. That's why it's good to have a professional do it.
And remember, you've got to always wear a mask, whether a dust mask or a respirator.
That's what we're
Proceed.
doing here.
Because there's going
Okay?
to be a lot of stuff flying, and it's going to be very noisy, and when next we talk to you, it'll be in what we call a voiceover.
Or a VO.
After your first pass, overlap what you've just done by several inches on your way back with the next pass. And don't forget, never stop the sander with the drum down. You'll gouge the floor and loose the spirit of Gene Krupa. Use the lever to lift the drum before you stop moving.
Ah, such a nice wafer.
Tyne Daly sings Cole Porter. This is DJ, and this is his edger.
This is the edger machine because you can't get into the right close against the wall, so you have to use the edger. And this is the same 12 grit as we used on the drum sander. This fits on here. See? Let's see how that goes on there.
Take us away, DJ. You have to give it to him. Goes in there.
Look, it's got wheels too. See?
And then it just, you got to drive it in there.
Yep.
All right, now it's on. You can see when this spins, this can go right up into a very tight corner.
See that? Nice shirt.
Well, the first cut is done. That's the 12 grit. Gone over the whole floor with the drum sander and then around the edges with the edge sander. However, because of the irregularities in this wall and the fact that the edge sander couldn't get right into the corners because of that, you got to scrape the corners manually with this. What is it? It's a piece of wood with, I don't know what this is. It's some kind of bent metal and it's got a sharp edge to it. It's a handmade scraper. Okay, that's what it is. And how do you use it? You bear down on it as hard as you can at an angle like so with both hands. And do you go across the grain? You do not. No matter what shirt you're wearing, you go with the grain. I'll get him. I'll get him. All right, the 12 grit part is done.
Yes, it is. Now we're going to get into the next grit, which is the 40 grit.
That's right. The floor is already substantially cleaned up. However, it's much too rough to coat.
Right, too
So am
rough
I.
to coat.
I'm too rough to coat.
So remember, kids, the lower the number, the more abrasive the paper.
Higher number, smoother finish.
Right, when you do real smooth finishes on furniture, you go to 320 or even 400. My mother's voice, it's about 120 grit.
Edward!
And this is the same sander you're going to be using
That's
for
right.
the 40 grit.
Look, it's a Sander Van Oker.
Now, are we going to do it the same way?
Exact same way with the grain, starting against one wall, up and back, same way.
Okay.
And edging with the same 40
Edging
grit.
with the same 40 grit.
Well, we've done that sanding. Now we're going to sand twice more with a 60 grit and then 100. Before we do that, we're going to patch some holes. There doesn't seem to be too many of them, but in this one board in particular, you can see right here, some kind of mark. I don't know what made that, but it is a hole and a gouge. And over here, the same kind of gouge. See that? I can go down this board and find more too, but I'm going to stay just on those two marks right there. And I'm using a latex putty. Looks kind of like butterscotch icing, doesn't it? But it's not, so don't try and eat it. And you're going to put this on just like this. Get off most of the excess. Go across the grain. That looks nice. And this stuff dries in about 10 minutes, and it'll just get sanded off with the next trip with the sander. Look at this. I want to show you something. Look at this board that we found under here. See that? Look how pretty that board is. It's not a damaged piece of wood. Well, actually it is. It's actually an infection that had been on the tree. It's called, the piece of wood is spalted. Spalted. So it is actually in the wood. And if I show you the wood over here, these are the boards. I'll just make a mark across. See, those are the old boards. They got a real nice color. Over here, you can see the wood has been patched. And they used yellow pine. See that? Now what happens is you got a difference in wood. You got old wood, you got new wood. And it matches kind of, but there's more reds in this. So we have to make a decision whether we want to sand some more and see if the wood comes up a little more even, which I doubt that it will because there's no reds in this wood. So we may have to stain it, and we'll figure that out after we do the next 2 sandings. We'll put a sealer coat of our finish on, and then we'll decide whether to stain or not.
Sounds great!
Don't go away, there's nothing else good on.
When we come back, more hardwood finishing of this floor.
This is a floor buffer.
A floor buffer.
And what do you got
My
there?
uncle was a floor buffer every time he got drunk. What? This is a screen.
What'd you get out of a porthole?
Yeah.
Who has a pipe this big?
This screen goes under the machine, right?
That's right. This is for screening the floor.
And this minimizes...
This will minimize the sanding lines, if any, that the previous machines have left.
And you're always going to have a sanding line from the edger, especially.
That's
because it's going
correct.
Circular to
Every
the
machine
floorboard.
will leave a signature of some kind.
And this will get rid of it.
That's
Dan was
right.
here.
When buffing the floor, there's no particular pattern you should follow. Just be thorough and go over every square inch, and be careful. These machines are hard to handle, so don't let it get away from you.
Now we're going to clean up before putting on 4 finish coats.
Dan, come on in here, because I want to ask you where you bought these brushes. These are nylon brushes, right? This is what you clean up with?
We use them. They shed less than the horsehair.
Oh, the
Horsehair. That's horsehair. Horsehair. We just made $40.
And it's very important to clean up, because if you don't clean up, oh my goodness, you're going to have dust all over your finish.
Yes. What will happen there, Dan?
Dirt and grit will be caught in the finish, and it'll feel rough to you. You'll see it. You won't be happy.
Well, we're in our socks.
Yes, we are.
You got a hole.
At my salary, I got to buy the big bags of socks at the supermarket.
Messy dress.
If you're...
Nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you very much. If you're wearing the kind of track shoes that have the black bottoms or any kind of soles with black on them...
My uncle has a black sole.
Well, the nun said on your report card every year has a black sole.
But it got better. But
Right.
you'll make marks, just like you make on tile, right?
Exactly. So now we're ready to coat. We're keeping everything clean. What's in the bucket?
This is a latex acrylic polyurethane. Some people call it water-based. This is easy to use. It's non-toxic, non-yellowing, fast-drying.
Dries how fast?
Oh, about 30 to 60 minutes per coat.
That's perfect.
Sounds like it's got it all.
It's also very durable. All right, I'm going to pour the first line of polyurethane here. These flat pads are nylon hair-coated foam pads for coating the edges. They get nice and tight and close up against the edges. The pole that he's using is made with the same type of a pad, but it's on a pole. It's for doing the bulk of the square footage.
Push and pull the poly across the floor, making sure you cover every square inch. Start at one corner of the room and work your way out. Make sure to allow an escape route. Use the pad to remove any excess poly when you're through.
Is this your first visit?
Ouch, yes it is.
Hey, the first coat of poly is dry, and remember we said that we didn't know whether we were going to stain or not. Well, we decided to stain.
Right, okay, now Joe can finish taping off the area.
I'm going to roll tape.
Okay, now, we've mixed up our colors here. The delicate part here is trying to get the right blend, and all we really want to do is very lightly tint this new wood with a little bit of red. And what we've done is we've taken some cherry stain and some neutral stain and blended them
together
to come up with as close as possible of a match.
Shall we do a test
Yes,
first?
Okay.
Ordinarily, we do a test.
No, this is what you mixed up already, so we can move these out of the way.
That's right. This is
With
our
some paint
mix.
thinner really nearby, but we're kind of sure it's going to be all
Let's
right.
just go right in here.
This man is a professional.
Let's see what we got here. Looks good.
Boy, you were fast with that.
Well, I can tell. I mean, it looks a lot less obvious than it does without it.
You'll apply the stain.
Can I have some stain too?
Rub off any excess very lightly with the dry end of your rag.
Yes.
Now, once we finish this entire area, we will leave this to dry for approximately 3 to 4 hours before we put the next coat down.
The bucket
Don't you
used to
wanna-
be here.
Don't you want to put on a sweater before you put on a coat?
Well, if it's cold enough, we'll put sweaters on. Now, normally, when we're staining a floor, we would stain directly on the bare wood. But in this case, that would have darkened this pine too much.
Peel that tape up to reveal a blend, a match, a perfection. Can't tell when one begins
Very
and the other
nice.
one ends, and that is what's happening.
Looks good.
So now that this is all dry, what comes next? Another water-based?
That's right. Now
Right
we
over
do
the top of the stain, no standing, we'll just go right over the top of the
right on
water.
top. If you sand it now, you'll take out the stain.
Right,
We
right,
don't
right.
want that.
That's right. So we do the
Probably
next
just
coat
like before.
just like the first coat. Once that's dry, after about 30, 40 minutes, we will buff the floor. That's to minimize the grain raising that
Exactly.
occurs, and we'll also ensure that the additional coats bond properly after that.
Look, the machine is back.
The second coat of poly is dry, and now we're going to buff with the buffing machine to close the pores of the wood.
Yeah, but what are you using on this? A screen?
We're using a used screen.
A used screen.
That's right. A new screen would be a little too abrasive.
So this is one that you use over many jobs.
That's right. All we want to do is lightly skim the top coat. This is to close up the pores or basically eliminate the grain raise.
Just like any kind of finishing, you sand between coats. This
That's
makes
right.
The film, the finish
Because
smoother and
the
smoother.
waterborne poly is raising the grain because it's
right.
water-based.
Correct. It opens up the pores of the wood, and then after we buff, of course, we have to sweep up and then lightly wash the floor to make sure we get all the dust out.
After you sweep up the floor real well, go over the floor again with a damp dust mop or a tack rag. This will ensure that you've gotten all the remaining dust particles up before your next coat of poly. After this, we'll see how the floor looks in its final finished state.
My painting will go up on the wall again.
I love the pig
This
waffles.
is from Benny Goodman. I painted this, you know.
Ah, now you come back.
We let the coat of poly dry for an hour. Dan, really looks pretty.
Fabulous. What a difference. Look at this old rotten-looking painted floor.
Ugh. And look at this. This is the after. Here it is.
So much better.
Magical change.
All right, any kind of maintenance? I don't want to do any maintenance.
Well, actually, you could leave it alone for 20 or 30 years, but it's better to do some proper maintenance to it. You should be dust mopping it on a weekly basis.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, you can also wash it if you'd like to.
I won't do that.
If you do wash it, use only mild soaps or detergents,
He won't do that.
no bleach or ammonia. And when you wash it, you only damp mop it, so you're wringing out the mop real well.
He
won't do that.
He won't do that at all.
Do you have to repoly ever? Recoat?
Well, you don't have to, but it's actually a good idea to do a screening and recoating every few years.
Every few years, so you would just clean this down, you would do a nice new screening,
That's right.
or he can call you back,
That's right.
you could do a new
Definitely not
screening,
gonna do that.
and you'd put a coat on of the same poly, right?
Well,
That's
you
right.
I'd call.
But
That's
see,
right.
with him, I think you know what he's going to do? I'll just paint it, he'll say.
I'm going to put purple shag rugs getting delivered in an hour. No, it
That's
does
it.
look great. I'm really proud of the floor now, and I'm also proud of my friend, Dan Liez,
Thank you.
and Keystone Floorworks and crew.
And we want to thank for the whole crew, too, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now all we have to do is move the furniture back.
Well-
You're going to help us, right?
I don't think so, Ed. Nice shirt, though.
See, I told you.
This time we used a black buffing pad. The reason we did...
I'm going to